Hello, hello, hello. My name is Muya Adegun, and this is the Redacted Nothing Show. I'm back with Boohema, the team behind MCM Magazine, essentially Masterclass Media. So, welcome back. How you doing, Boohema?
I'm great. It's bizarre to be talking about MCM all these years on, but I'm grateful that we're remembered.
I really liked it. It was the first interview I'd done that was like two people. Obviously, the person you spoke with isn't here right now, Mikkel, but I'm really interested to hear your story. We spoke in October 2017, so nearly 9 years ago. Insane, right? So back then you were turning 23. I think it was your birthday that day.
It was, yeah, at the
You're the
Roundhouse, isn't it?
co-founder,
Yeah.
yeah, at
hmm
the Roundhouse. Co-founder of MCM. You had aspirations of building into radio. You're a public speaker in colleges, mentoring young people. You're doing network events with MCM. So, like, where has MCM gotten to now? Like, what is the path of MCM?
Okay, so I guess I'll like intertwine my life into it as well. So I don't know if at the time, well, at the time I was living in London because I'm from London. Um, and then in 2018, September, I moved to Birmingham. Um, So yeah, that's sort of, I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere, but it did come out of nowhere, if that makes sense. Like there was reasons, but it's not like it was pre-planned, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Birmingham. It just sort of like happened. So I came here and I didn't really know what I was doing with myself. I was kind of like, am I gonna work? Am I gonna study? I don't know. But then I worked for a little bit and then I realized that life was really hard and salaries are crap. So I decided to go do a master's. So I did a master's in radio production and
Okay.
I was producing like radio documentaries, which was really good. I enjoyed it, but then obviously I started that in 2018. I graduated in 2020. We all know what happened in 2020.
What happened in 2020? Could you remind me? I'm joking, I'm joking.
The craziest thing that we've ever witnessed
Yeah, that
happened.
you could, yeah, go through uni, that is insane.
And of course, working in radio, you're working with people, isn't it? So all of that got completely shut down. Um, I did work with an independent radio station for a little bit, but again, they were like uncertain about the future of the station. And I think I just sort of had to say to myself, I need to get real. Like, I need a job. I need to figure out what I'm gonna do with my life. So yeah, I was really confused because I think I thought I was going to work within the radio space like for the foreseeable. And all of a sudden, my world has like changed upside down. So I was like, I don't even know what I'm good at. Like, I think I'm one of those people that's always been good at quite a few things. So I
Mm.
never really had my mindset on like, this is what I want to do. Um, but yeah, like, I don't know, I'm a firm believer of God and like his
Yeah,
direction.
man.
So I was like praying about it. I was like, God, just like lead me to something. And that's how I fell into like the world of higher education. So I started working at BCU. Like I graduated from there, then I went back to work there. And then I worked at Aston University. And then I worked at Coventry. So I did that between 2020 and 2024.
Oh, how?
And then yeah, 2024. I then started working for the council, so I've like got into like government, and now I'm working with like children and young people. So it's been
Wow.
quite a road. And
Yeah,
I've been in
yeah.
Birmingham for 8 years as well, so that's
Oh,
also
you've been
kind
in
of
Birmingham that
like
whole time.
yeah. So that's also been odd because sometimes I'm like, how? Like it's almost 10 years. So yeah, it's been very different. MCM hasn't really been a thought, and I think I
What-
stopped it because I realized that I wasn't a university student myself anymore. I was
Well,
struggling
wait.
to like,
Before we get into that, what the crux of what happened with MCM, I do want to ask you a quick question around. Do you remember I asked you when you came into the studio Roundhouse like what your favorite songs were
oh, I don't
at
remember.
the moment? I'm gonna say songs, and again, I don't know if you suggested them or Mikhail, so it'll be interesting. So the first one was
Okay.
Hey Ma by Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
Say
That's
You
not a
Will,
great
Kanye
song.
West. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not. That was a tune. Say You Will, Kanye West.
I don't even
Salty
know that
Velvet.
song.
Swansea Velvet featuring Jenny Francis, I Wish by Skilo, and the X remix, Afro B featuring Chip. Do these songs still have? Do you still have them on rotation?
I think three of them, yeah. The others, I
Okay,
don't
yeah,
even know. So maybe the other two were Mikkel's,
yeah.
but yeah.
Miguel's suggestion. Do you still listen to them? Really? You still listen to like Hey Ma, I
Yeah,
Wish? Okay, I respect that.
absolutely.
Hey Ma's a
Not like
tune.
on a day to day, but like if it's on shuffle, yeah, sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Let's get into it then. What really happened to MCM? Walk me through it.
Yeah, so like I said, so I think probably from like 2018, it was already starting to feel a little bit, there was like a disconnect, you know? A
Hmm.
lot of the writers, they were also moving on, as in like, so MCM was really centered around university life,
Yeah, I
university
was gonna say,
experience.
explain to people what it was.
Yeah, like, especially at that time, Twitter was like the thing, you know? So
Hmm.
when people were, when we were putting out the articles, they were getting a lot of attention and people were engaging with it. And a lot of people that were in like college, for example, wanting to know what universities really like, it was like a great way for them to like find out. But yeah, so it was a combination of things. It was like the writers, they obviously had moved on and they were like losing interest. Me myself, I think I just became completely disconnected from the university scene. And also, I was the chief editor. So when people would like write articles, they would send it to me. I would have to edit it. And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want to edit an article about, oh, this is how you save money as a university student, or like, I just don't have interest in those things anymore, you know? So
Yeah, yeah,
it just became a bit, yeah, like I just lost interest. Also, because I was like I said, I'd done this big move to Birmingham. I'm trying to figure out my own life, trying to do that and then manage all of the writers. Because I think probably the highest amount of writers I had at one time was like 15, you know. And then and another, oh, actually, I think another thing I should mention as well is that, yes, as you mentioned, at the time I was 23, right? So I was young. One mistake that I made was becoming friends with some of the writers. And yeah, the whole like business friendship thing, it doesn't always
yeah.
work. It can work, and actually, interestingly enough, I have a friend who, at the time, he was coming to like the MCM events and stuff, and we remained friends afterwards. And he got married last month, and one of his best friends was one of my writers, and they met through MCM. And
That's actually
he was,
nice.
yeah, and his, he said to me, Boohema, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for you because like I met him through like MCM and I was like, that's crazy. So yeah, like there has been some great people I've met from it, but I still think if I could go back, I wouldn't have become or tried to become close friends with like some of the writers, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, only maturity can offer you that, like kind of looking back in hindsight, because like you said, there was positive things that came out of it. A quick question I have is when was the specific time that like you were like, okay, let's end MCM?
I think it was like January 2019 or something.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I had a conversation with my co-founder. She had like she obviously was involved, but because she spent a lot of time in the US, she wasn't physically around. So, and by the time that she'd come back, she also was figuring out her life in the UK and trying to like just find her feet again. So I said to her, yeah, we've had a good run. We started it at what, 18? So like,
Yeah,
yeah,
what
it
year
was
did it start? That would be what,
2013.
2012? 2013. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, we've had an amazing run. We've done some great things. I'm pleased with it, like I don't feel like, oh, we should have. I mean, obviously at the time, there was times where we felt like, oh, we should be at this stage or we should be at that stage, and that's normal. But I think by the time that I'd finished it, I was kind of like, I'm okay. I don't feel like I need to do any more or yeah, I was just at peace with like everything we'd achieved.
No, you really should be, because like you said, there's tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of views. There's different writers. Some of them might have even gone on to writing full time, and you've created like friendship and networks and relationships. So you have to be proud of that at least. Are you still talking to the co-founder, Lola Day? Like
Absolutely.
you used
We're,
to
we're
have?
going we're going on holiday together in 3 weeks. So yeah.
That is so good to hear. I love stuff like that. Where you guys going, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, that's what we're going on a spa trip to Sweden. So,
Okay.
but actually, funny enough, I've not traveled with her since 2017. So she went to Atlanta during the time of
Yeah.
MCM to do a master's degree. Was it master? I don't remember. Yeah, I think it was her second degree, something like that. I went to go see her. And obviously, yeah, when she came back, our friendship has remained, like we've always been close, but I've not actually traveled with her since that time. So this is the first time since, yeah.
I wanted to ask, going back to like you being in higher education now, do you ever wish to get back into radio production? Is it something you do like on the side, or is it something you've completely pushed away?
Oh no, I've left higher education. Let's get that.
So, my bad.
I'm done with that. Um, oh, do you know what? If I like had a pound for every time someone would tell me you need to get back into, oh my God. I actually was on a podcast. I'll send it to you afterwards. I was on a podcast in January, and that's the first podcast I've done since I don't know, but I was interviewed about my life. I've been through a lot of things in my life. So, the host was just sort of the podcast was about, like from trial to tribulation, like from loss to legacy, sorry, is what it's called. So basically everything that I've lost and how I've managed to like, pull myself out of it. Um, and I had so many people messaging like, wow, like we were just blown away by your storytelling, by just everything. And I'm just like, yeah. So everyone's like, so when are you doing your own podcast? I'm like, when I have money. Because the thing is, it takes money. You have to hire I know you can do it online, like how you're doing, right?
Yeah.
But the way that I envision it, I know what I would like it to be. And that involves money. So I'm
Don't
just kind
don't
of
let
like,
perfection stop a good plan. Like you could
yeah,
do
true.
like that was that podcast Lost to Legacy, and people are already engaged with you. So I'm sure if you had the same environment like this, and you'll get there in time, you'll get there in due time when you have the better production. But it is what it is. My thing is like just do it because that's your skill, right? Your skill isn't about the better lights or the better editing. It's who you are. It's your ability to create a story, to have a conversation with someone, to make someone like laugh in an interview. That's what your skill is. So don't let perfection in like editing and production stop you from doing that. But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
my two
yeah,
cents.
yeah. Oh, trust me, you're part of the majority. I mean, there's other reasons as well. I think I enjoy it. I like it. I like the fact that other people enjoy me speaking. But I just feel like I don't know that I'm at that stage of life where it's like there's certain things that I want and there's certain things I want to achieve by a certain point. So I'm kind of like that's really what I'm focused in on. And I think something like podcasting, like you said, it's a skill, or I'd like to call it a gift, right? So I feel like
Mm.
it's never going to leave me. Whether I do it now, whether I do it in the next 5 years, it's always gonna like be there. So I'm like, okay. And I also know what I want the podcast to be. And it's basically going to be centered around like being a millennial. I'm always going to be a millennial. Like that's my generation, you see? So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm
Okay.
like, whether I start it today, tomorrow, in the next 10 years, I'm always going to be a millennial. So I think in terms of like the topics, they're still going to be relevant now or like further down the line.
Yeah,
Whereas like
yeah.
something like MCM, it's not relevant to me as a 31-year-old. You get what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
No,
And
no, I
that's
get
why it
you.
just couldn't continue. So yeah, so we'll get there hopefully one day. But yeah.
Do you feel like what did MCM teach you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do you know, I'm going to answer this in two ways because I think so last year June I went to the Birmingham Black Business Show and I think they
Okay,
do one
yeah.
in London as well. And there's a girl that actually I was very close with her during the MCM time because she had her own business. Well, she still runs her own business. Um, but I hadn't seen her. So what I'm trying to say, it was weird. Like we were close when she was in London, but she's from Birmingham originally. But when I moved
Okay.
here, we just
You gotta swap
drifted.
places. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So we kind of like lost contact and we're not close like that anymore. But anyways, I hadn't seen her in years. And she obviously looked at me like, oh my God, it's a ghost. Like, what the hell, Boohema? And I'm like, yeah. And then I was with so I've actually got a new business. So maybe we can get into that later. But I was with my business partner at this event. And so I've seen this girl and she was just like, to my business partner, do you know who your business partner is? As in like me. And then my business partner was like, yeah, of course I do. She was like, no, 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 you don't understand who she is. Like she was doing amazing things. Like she was the founder of MCM. It's almost like she was like reciting my whole like, I don't know,
Yeah, yeah, she's
CV.
bigging you
Like
up. Yeah.
yeah, she was like, the kind of events you was doing, the kind of people you were getting. She was like, you shouldn't ever underestimate yourself. And I was just shocked. I'm just standing there like, little old me, okay. She's like, yeah, yeah. So I think to answer that question, like it taught me that impact. Sometimes you don't have a clue about the impacts that you're making on people and the legacy that you're making. Because obviously, like we said, this is years ago, right? But people still remember it like it's yesterday. And she kind of said to me, you was doing things that nobody else was doing at that time. There wasn't like many events in London that were bringing like networking and bringing people together like for young entrepreneurs. And I was like, wow, okay, like maybe I did a thing. So yeah, she made me like remember myself. The other thing I've learned from it, I think just the fact that we started from, me and Loladay. Oh God, I still have very vivid memories of like the day we sat down and we was like, let's start a business. And it all started because of the barriers that we faced at university. So we were doing English and journalism as a course, and they were telling us, you're wasting your time. Like, there's no jobs in like our
On the
lecturer,
court, on
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
lecturers.
Our lecturer, she literally said to us on day one, she was like, why have you chosen this course? And we're just like, because we want to do English and journalism. She's like, but I was a journalist and I came into teaching because there's no jobs in journalism. So she was like, you're wasting your time. She was like, if I was you, I would go back to UCAS and change it. And we're just
Fair
like,
enough.
that's
The first
fantastic.
day is crazy. Yeah, on the first day,
Okay. So,
like,
so
can
you
I
know what we
get?
did? We went back to UCAS. We tried to change to media production and they were like, no, sorry, it's too late.
Oh,
So we were
okay,
like,
fair enough.
damn, okay. So by the time we got to the end of our first year, we was like, are we really not gonna get a job? We tried to intern at the BBC. We tried to do so, like they just weren't giving us a chance. And that's where we created something of our own. So I guess what it taught me is like, if there is no opportunities, create the opportunity for yourself.
That is such a good lesson to learn. It's the same with like 20 nothings as well. I was just like, I want to be able to speak to these entrepreneurs. I want to hear their stories. And I'm never going to hear like, the MCM story from the BBC because like you even said, like the BBC wasn't going to talk to you. So I have to try and find those stories myself. That is such an interesting point. My next question was going to be around like, do you think MCM failed or do you think it just finished? Because I think the distinction is quite important.
That's a good question. I think it's a bit of both, I'll be honest.
Hmm.
Um, I think it failed obviously because we had passion but not the business mind. With any business, you need profit. You can't just operate where you're just putting in and putting in and you're not getting much back. So I mean with the blog and the writing, there was no cost to that, but we started doing events and those events were costing us. Although we would try to like do some things where it would like for example we tried to use free venues or use venues that were on the cheaper side or whatever, but it was still like costly. So I think it failed for that reason. I think obviously we didn't have a business mentor either. I'd met different people along the way, but I don't know. I do remember going for like a few business like mentoring meetings and stuff, but they were kind of like drop-in sessions. They weren't like it wasn't like a specific business mentor that I had along the way.
Yeah.
So I think that obviously doesn't help when you don't have direction because interestingly, I'll say it and if you want to edit it out or anything you can, but um guap as in like the
Yeah.
people that do like
Yeah.
guap
Yeah.
gala and all of that, yeah. So I remember when they were starting out and I was at a venue and the two guys that run it, they were doing what were they doing? They were doing interviews, I think, for people to join their team. And I was at an event that was at the same hotel that they were doing the interviews at. So we somehow kind of came across each other and they were like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I run a magazine called MCM. And then they were like, oh, you're our rivals. And I was thinking, right? I hadn't even heard of them. So I was like, rivals? Okay. And they were like, yeah, like we're doing a magazine as well, but ours is like like music or something like so I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and it was, yeah, anyways. But with them, I never obviously saw them as rivals because for me, I felt like we did two completely different things.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm amazed to see the things that they've done. Absolutely amazed. Like I'm just like, wow, like the fact that you guys, like just like me, started as like a little magazine and then now you've scaled and you're doing like Got Gala and you're doing all these amazing things. And obviously I don't know who they had on their journey to help them or to,
Yeah.
but clearly they must have had the right people, hence why they've managed to become as big as they are. So that's why I would say that yes, to some degree MCM failed because I don't think we had the right people to help. But at the same time, I do also feel like it finished because, like I said, for me to like in my personal life have this big move and sort of like be like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm doing with myself because I knew that MCM wasn't a long-term job or something that I was gonna do for life. So I think for me, and sorry, and for Lola Day as well, we both was like, yeah, like we're just in a different phase.
Yeah, to me, then that I interpret that as that you finished it then because you were just kind of seeing where it was going to go and seeing how far you could take it, and you took it for as far as you could. So I don't see anything wrong in that. Um, you touched on it a bit earlier, but what are you doing now? Like, what is the business you were speaking about? Do you want to go into more details about that?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I think I'm just a born entrepreneur. There's always something, and this is just like one of like many things. But yeah, so I'm Ghanaian. I love being Ghanaian. It's awesome at times.
Congratulations.
But I say at times because obviously like I'm a British born Ghanaian, isn't it? And that's very different to being a continental born Ghanaian. Like there's a lot of differences. Me personally, I've always had a connection with Ghana, as in like I've always gone when I was younger and everything, but I never went by myself until 2021. So
Okay, wow.
2021, I went with a friend of mine and we had our own place and it was just the most amazing trip because it was like, wow, because even her, like she used to go as a kid as well, but she'd have to stay with family. So for both of us, it was like, wow, okay, we're really seeing the country for what it is by ourselves. I don't want to say it in a derogatory way, but I think even like kids that are born here that are from like maybe African backgrounds, sometimes you can look down on your home countries and feel like, oh, they don't
Mm.
have, electricity or they don't have water and yes, that is true to some extent, but it's not everywhere in the country. So I think for me and her, we were just like, oh wow, like not all of Ghana, but the capital, Accra, we was like, wow, like Accra's like really leveled up. Like we didn't realize the level of like the apartments, the restaurants, the entertainment. Like we didn't realize it was on that level. Um, so we was like, damn, okay, like we see why people come here and everything. But we realized that there was still issues and there was issues regarding like rentals, so rental properties, so like Airbnb, short-term lets, that type of thing. We had like friends that went through issues with their bookings and stuff, and thankfully ours was fine because we had like a connection there. But we realized that yeah, like it's not as seamless as it should be. Like if someone is coming to Britain to visit, I feel like the UK is such an easy country to work out if you're foreign. Even if you're from another like European country or you're from America or whatever, it's
Yeah.
very easy to kind of like figure out things, like as long as you can speak a bit of English, like you're okay. But in Ghana, it's like, although yes, Ghana speaks English too, but it's just not easy to figure out everything. Like there's a lot of things that are not available on the internet. Um, and we were just like, yeah, like it's making people's experience really difficult, or it's ruining some people's experience as well. Because it's like, for example, I've been to South Africa before, which obviously is also in Africa, right? But it's a completely different experience. Like the level of just togetherness, like the understanding of like professionalism, customer service, all of that is like through the roof. And
Yeah,
and
but that's
Ghana
that's
just
tour that's experience of tourism. It's just
exactly,
experience of tour.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
And
get what you
Ghana
mean.
isn't there yet, right? Like, is there in some, or I don't know how to put it. In my opinion, I feel like Ghana has like really good like PR. It's like, oh, Ghana, Ghana, but it's like when you really go, there's issues. Like when you look
I think it
beneath the
has good
surface.
relative PR because it's close to Nigeria and people compare the two. It's like Ghana looks great. Ghana is like,
Yeah.
wow, what a great student. But if you compare it to Nigeria, when people explain like Nigeria, like the chaos, the disorganization of like tourism there, and I think Ghana looks amazing compared to it. I
That's
haven't
the
been Ghana
thing,
though,
but it's
so
not, but it's not like there's issues, right? So So yeah, so anyway, sorry to make it long-winded, but I was trying to give like the
No,
context. Like we just realized that there
the
was
problem. Yeah, yeah,
problems. So obviously that's a great way to build a business from a problem, isn't it? So we was
yeah.
like, how about we create a business where we can just make that whole like experience for people seamless? So the business, sorry, is called Signature Spaces. Um, so I guess yeah, I would call it a tourism platform. And what people can do is they can book their accommodation on there. Another thing that we identified is that people tend to go to Ghana either during like Easter, so like right now, or they go in December. But as we know, December is obviously very expensive. So particularly
Yes.
people from the UK, it feels like people are not going as much as they want to because they can't afford it. So part of what we want to do is like offer discounts around that time. So it's like you can get discounts if you book through us. And then obviously that hopefully would encourage people to, and it might be something like, oh, you can get 25% off your third night, or, you can get, whatever it is, but just kind of like special discounts if you sign up to the newsletter. So there's going to be a
Yeah.
newsletter that goes out to people, and yeah, once a
Yeah.
month you can check out like the latest deals with property. But that's I would say phase one of the business. So we've
Yeah.
got more phases to come, and essentially what we really want it to be is a one-stop shop for Ghana. So what it means is that if you're going to Ghana, you can go on my website, you can book your flights, you can book your accommodation, you can book any activities you want to do. So if you want to go quad biking, water rafting, whatever. And then you can also book things like tours, but then you can also kind of personalize your experience. So let's say you wanted to hire a car or like book a private chef, like you can do
Wow.
whatever it is you want to do and keep it in one space. And you can obviously monitor things, and you can directly talk to like us, like, to sort out anything with your booking. And these are the things that are lacking, out there.
Yeah.
There are companies that do these things, but I just feel like I don't know how to put it. It's like, for example, when we were there, if we wanted to go to like a cooking class, we would have to go on this Instagram page. Then we want to go to like the mountains, we have to go on that
Yeah.
Instagram. Do you know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say?
Talk
Like,
to
it's just
three
too
different businesses
sporadic.
to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just confusing. And I was trying to make an itinerary and I just couldn't, because I couldn't even remember like who I'd spoken to here, or you know and also like Ghanaians have this thing where like sometimes they pass you around to different people, so like you'll speak to one person and they're like, oh, my colleague so and so is dealing with it, and you're like, I just want to like deal with the same person. And
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Essentially it's us just bringing like our standards that we have here back home.
Hmm.
So with the business, I say we launched it last year, September, so September 2025. So
Okay.
it's very new.
Yeah.
Since then, we've got ourselves a business mentor. That was the first thing. So we went to an event and we met this guy, and he's a really, really like, senior person in the property industry. And he heard our idea, and he was like, I love it. And he was like, I want to mentor you guys. And we was like, for free? And he was like, yeah. We was like, okay. So yeah, like he's been mentoring us. He's been amazing. Like when I went to Ghana last year, August, like all of the meetings that I had, he set them up for me.
Wow.
Um,
That's dope.
and I remember even one of the meetings crying because I was thinking, I don't know nothing about this industry. So how am I like in these big meetings with these big people and I don't know what I'm doing? But I just feel like it's just favor. So yeah, I'm slowly building that. I'm not in a rush to build it. I think another thing I've learned about business is that sometimes when you're in a rush, you make mistakes. And not to not to mention any names or anything, but I've seen a few black businesses, like UK black businesses, that I feel have somewhat like rushed, or they've tried to get like attention, and they've like climbed really quickly, but then plummeted very quickly as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Let's say, and that happens when you don't do all of your checks and you don't like properly like vet things. And that's something that I want to make sure that I do like with this, because for me, property is one of the best businesses to be in. So I
Okay.
want I want signature spaces that when I'm 60 is bringing in loads of money, and I don't want it to just be in Ghana. Like I actually want to eventually franchise and like expand. I've
Yeah.
even had
Yeah.
people. I've even had like people that I've met, for example, maybe like Jamaican descent or any other like Caribbean island, and they've loved the idea and they're just like, wow, like if it does get to a certain stage, I would like to like invest in it, like shares and that type of thing. So every time I'm like talking to people about it, they're just like, this is amazing, like this doesn't exist anywhere. So it would be great if like something like this is like on the market. So yeah, it's exciting, but I'm just taking my time because I think sometimes people just get overexcited and, you know, want to do everything in one go.
It really is exciting. So, like, I can't wait until the next interview in what 10, 9 years to see how big this destination is like, lining up as well. There's a couple more questions I have. One is like, looking back at like MCM, like, would you do it again? Like, do you miss doing it, or are you
Mm,
happy with the journey?
I don't miss doing it because I
Okay.
feel like there were times where it was really stressful, you know? There were times where I was sacrificing a lot of my time, and like I said, it just felt like I wasn't getting as much in return. So I think for me, yeah, just with how much I've grown and developed, I wouldn't do it again. But I'm so glad I did it at that time because it was necessary for that period of my life.
Yeah, that's a good way to see it. It really is. And one of my last questions was going to be like, what would you tell 2017 Boohema, the one that walked into the studio around house?
Would I tell her, like business wise,
Just in general, whatever you see fit.
anything? We could be here all day, but I'll try to. I would tell her that your 30s is where it's at. I'm so happy with my life at this point of time. Like, I'll be honest, my 20s were really horrific. Actually, not 23. I'd say from like 25, it started getting really, really bad. I'd say like between age 20 and 25, I was having a blast, you know. I was like life was great. But I don't know, after 25, it got really dark. And then from like 30 onwards, it's been like just a ray of sunshine. So I would tell her that you're gonna experience some bad times, but you will get through it, you know? Um, Resilience, of course, not giving up. And also, it's okay to obviously be in a bad place as long as you get up. Like, you have to get to a point where you're just like, okay, enough is enough. I need to stand up. I need to face whatever it is I'm going through, and I need to see myself through. I would also say, yeah, like mentoring, coaching, um, therapy. You know, I've had counseling for different things, which has been really good.
Amazing.
Um, Clear communication. Like I think I was very passive when I was younger. Like if I had a problem with someone or I had a problem with something, I wouldn't say it. But now it's like I'm able to address issues head on. Um, and also just to like keep trying new things because all of the jobs that I've had are things that I never saw myself like working in, but it's just happened and I'm grateful because I've learned a lot of lessons from like the jobs that I've had.
No, I mean, you have done so much like in your early 20s, and it's good to see you like bearing the fruits of the lessons that you learned into your 30s, because it feels like, yeah, you made mistakes with MCM, but you are learning from those mistakes and applying those solutions into what Signature Spacious is going to be. So that's why I say I'm really excited to see what you deliver. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Like when I met you for the first time, you were 23 years old, co-founder of Lolade, Radio Dreams, and you're doing events, networking events, mentoring young people. And you're just testament to the fact that the grind doesn't stop. You got your master's degree, you worked in higher education, got out of that, and now you're starting another business with Signature Spaces. I'm really proud of what the stuff that you delivered, and I can't wait to see what you make in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Morris. Okay, bye guys. Bye everyone.
Bye.